Can you believe the history behind the video game character who changed the game? If you grew up in the 90s or early 2000s, there's one video game character who is completely different from his name, Crash Bandicoot. Sega had Sonic, Nintendo had Mario, PlayStation had Crash Bandicoot. For those who didn't live it, the launch of PlayStation by Sony was huge. It was something every kid, teenager, and young adult was talking about. But like Sega and Nintendo, PlayStation understood they needed an icon. They needed someone or something that set them apart besides having the newest unique video game system. That icon would be Crash Bandicoot. But where did this character come from, and how did the game become a unique aspect of the 90s that still lives on to this day? The game was originally developed by Naughty Dog Studios, who were coming off their successful game Way of the Warrior. The character was developed while Andy Gavin and Jason Rubin, founders of Naughty Dog, traveled across the country. Starting in August 1994, the two went cross-country from Boston to LA and began developing this game. The concept of the game took inspiration from 16-bit era games like Donkey Kong Country, Mario, and Sonic. They wanted to take the concepts from these iconic characters and develop it into a new game. The idea would be looking at control a character and follow it around due to the fact you always were looking at the characters, but the code would be jokingly called Sonic's Ass Game. Somewhere in Indiana, the tech for the game series would be built, and in Colorado, the game's theory and concept. Rubin and Gavin would once again meet with Mark Cerny of Universal Interactive, who previously worked with them on Way of the Warrior. In LA, on the Universal backlot, the three would agree on the game style and design, beginning development. However, the game still remained unnamed without a main character. After establishing a deal with Universal, Naughty Dog began adding team members to complete the new unnamed game. Naughty Dog would bring on two artists to come up with a main character. The character was originally developed as Willy the Wombat, with Universal Interactive wanting the character to be named with various different W names instead of Willy. The artist would also be tasked with designing the world in which Willy would be battling, which, as we know, is just as important as the character. They would have the goal to build out a world with no straight lines or 90-degree corners. They wanted to build out an overgrown looking game, different from what had been seen in previous games. By April 1995, the first functional game was developed, and by June 1995, the game became playable. By August 1995, the first 3 levels of the game would be ready to go. However, it became apparent that the game was too difficult early in the game. They would run into their first issue when showing the game to Sony behind closed doors. They realized there were many empty areas in the game due to PlayStation's limited ability to process numerous on-screen enemy characters, thus meaning something needed to be added to the game. By January 1996, they would add crates into the game to fill in for the boring parts. Essentially, the only reason the iconic crates in the game were added was to fill blank space and boring areas. The crate would become a primary aspect of the gameplay, allowing you to hit various different symbols, allowing a new element to be added to the game. However, they realized Willy or another W name wouldn't work now that this character was breaking crates. Naughty Dog realized they needed to make an upgrade to make it more intense. With this character breaking things and the overall trends of the 90s being more extreme with things like the X Games and extreme sports, it was decided to rename the character Crash Bandicoot. Universal, perceiving the potential popularity of the Crash Bandicoot game, notified Naughty Dog that they were not allowed to attend E3, as they wanted to create the popularity of the new game for the new system. Universal leaked copies of the box cover and press materials at E3, omitting the Naughty Dog logo. This created a fight between Naughty Dog and Universal, with Naughty Dog's creators passing out flyers in front of the Crash display at E3 titled Naughty Dog, creator and developer of Crash Bandicoot. At the E3 Expo in May of 1996, Sony went full out for this new game. They actually would swap out Twisted Metal, one of the most anticipated games in recent years, for Crash Bandicoot. Sony would showcase the new game front and center at their booth. Sony and the Crash team would go all out in a marketing and advertising push. They wanted to do something unique to set the game and highlight the exclusivity of the Crash games for the new PlayStation system. Sony wanted to establish itself as the challenger of Nintendo and show its new strength. The concept behind the marketing campaign would be a crazed fan wearing a Crash Bandicoot outfit harassing Nintendo and Mario at their offices. It was truly a unique concept for a marketing campaign, as it was not supposed to be directly implying it was the Crash character, rather just a crazed Crash fan who was against Mario. They would film the teaser and ads near the Nintendo headquarters. The plan was to also launch ads against Sega. However, due to funding issues, we would never see those commercials. Overall, the entire project of the first Crash game spanned 18 months, which would culminate with the launch of the game on September 9th, 1996 in North America. The game was truly unique, taking a new unknown character and placing him into his own new world with a new system. The overall goal was to create Sega's Sonic or Nintendo's Mario, building a universe around an iconic character. The reception of the game was very good, with game rankings giving it an 80% and other rating it higher. It was considered to be a very good action game. Many considered the visuals to be some of the best around for a 5th generation console, specifically the added textures and lighting. The game had great commercial success as the second highest rented game at Blockbuster for PlayStation, eventually moving to number 1. The game sold over 1 million in 1996 worldwide, with the majority coming from the United States and Europe. It was a top 5 best-selling game for the new console and would become the first non-Japanese game to receive a gold prize in Japan for over 500,000 units sold. The game would gross revenues in the millions, ranging from 16 million in the US. The game did exactly what it sought to do, create an iconic character to build a universe around. The success of the first Crash Bandicoot game would allow for sequels and expansion into a Crash Bandicoot universe. From 1996 until 2010, there would be a Crash game produced every year, including the sequel Cortex Strikes Back and the Crash Racing series. The game series would end up being ported to multiple different systems by 2001. Naughty Dog would end the Crash deal with Universal in 1999. Universal would retain the rights to Crash Bandicoot, meaning they would need to find a new producer for the game. By 2001, Sony would purchase Naughty Dog for the production of other games like Jak and Daxter series. Though the Crash Bandicoot series is still around to this day, it did take a hiatus in the 2010s. The Crash series is trying to recapture the nostalgia of childhoods with their series. However, it really hasn't been able to create the popularity it once had. What do you think is the future of Crash Bandicoot? Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and follow. Believable Truths.